Vice President Maybelline was making the rounds, attempting to defend his boss and the chairman of the FCC with a new fairy tale even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good.
I have some good news for you, J-Dog. We're back on all the stations.
All right, live from Brooklyn, the band hits, the crowd leans in, and Jimmy Kimmel looks straight into the lens like he saved dessert for last. He reads J.D. Vance's claim on Fox that Kimmel was pulled off TV for bad ratings, lets the silence hang just long enough to taste, then detonates it with, "Good news, J-Dog, we're back on all the stations, every home, every bar, every strip club," and christens him Vice President Maybelline.
First of all, Kimmel was taken off the air because he had low ratings, because the late night talk show host model is not doing particularly well, and let's be honest, because he had become so politically unhinged that I think he wasn't particularly funny. Now, the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, put out a couple of tweets, but the government took no action. We did literally nothing to try to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. We believe in free speech. We also believe in the right of a television station or a network to cancel somebody because of low ratings. And I think it's a little bit rich. The second point I make, Rashad, is it's a little bit rich for people to say that somehow we're engaged in censorship when literally every day, including yesterday, we found out that Google and YouTube were censoring information at the height of COVID at the direction of the Biden administration. So if we're looking for real sources of the government driving censorship, we should be looking at the policies of the Biden administration. We absolutely reject censorship in the Trump administration. We don't want to prevent anybody from speaking their mind, but if a TV station wants to cancel a guy because he's not funny, that's their business.
The room turns over. It isn't just a joke, it's a receipt, because yes, Jimmy Kimmel Live had already been restored across Nexstar and Sinclair, the two affiliate giants that briefly blacked him out. He wasn't guessing, he was reporting with rim shots. So rewind one beat, because the setup matters. A 6-day suspension pulled Kimmel off ABC's air after a monologue that torched the online outrage machine, and while Disney brought him back the following Tuesday, some big station groups kept the blackout rolling.
I mean to interrupt your bullshit. Go on.
There's something else that's important here, Laura, which is that these broadcast companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, they enjoy the public airwaves because they serve the public interest. So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his ratings aren't very good.
My ratings aren't very good. Last time I checked, your ratings were somewhere between a hair in your salad and chlamydia. In 3.5 years, I'm not the one who's going to be doing mascara tutorials on YouTube. How did we wind up with a president and a vice president who wear more makeup than Kylie Jenner and Lady Gaga combined? The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make me.
Said I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
Look, I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
I didn't know you meant that, Donald Trump.
Trump cheered from the sidelines, and Vance tried to launder the mess as a simple ratings problem. And then the ground shifted. Sinclair reversed course. Nexstar followed. Suddenly, the canceled for bad ratings line had to stand next to a nationwide reinstatement and a live audience screaming for the punchline. Kimmel did what comics do when the facts hand them a ladder. He climbed. The receipts didn't stop at, "We're back." Trades and news desks logged what happened once the lights came on.
Tylenol. It's been overwhelming. I've heard from a lot of people over the last 6 days. I've heard from all the people in the world over the last 6 days. Everyone I have ever met has reached out 10 or 11 times. Weird characters from my past are the guy who fired me from my first radio job in Seattle, where we are not airing tonight, by the way. Sorry, Seattle. His name is Larry. In 1989, Larry tried to force me to do a bit called Jokes for Donuts, where people would call in with a joke and I would give them donuts. I refused to do it, and then I made a lot of fun of Larry for suggesting it, and eventually Larry fired me, and I had to move back in with my parents. But even he wrote in to cheer me up. Thank you, Larry, and I want to thank everyone who checked in.
The return pulled his best numbers in years, then settled to a level that still outpaced pre-suspension averages, which is not how Nobody's Watching behaves in the wild. Vance could repeat a line. Kimmel could point to a chart and a distribution map, different hobbies, one of them travels. There was also the pressure story that Vance pretended didn't exist. While he was on Fox brushing off politics, an FCC firestorm was burning. Commissioner Brendan Carr publicly pushed ABC and Disney to take action and tossed out an easy way or the hard way line that landed like a steel toe on the First Amendment.
I would take all week to list all of them, but some that I do especially want to mention are my fellow late night talk show hosts, my friend Stephen Colbert, who found himself in this predicament, my friends Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Arsenio, Kathy, Wanda, Chelsea, even Jay reached out. Sometimes I wonder in what world is the vice president of the United States calling into a giant-toothed podcast host to badmouth me and the people who watch this show.
There are these judges. Judge Boasberg comes to mind. Lots of judges who are trying to basically say the president can't exercise the powers of the presidency.
After blowback from lawmakers and the industry, Carr insisted he never threatened licenses, just raised distortion concerns. Either way, the timeline is the timeline. Affiliates yanked Kimmel, the FCC noise hit max volume, Disney brought him back, and the affiliates fell in line. Kimmel folded that context into his monologue like a chef sneaking vegetables into mac and cheese. It's not ratings when the regulator is shouting from the mezzanine, it's pressure then cleanup.
Trump really is running the country like it's one of his businesses. He said he would. Just to give you some perspective, the government being shut down is even worse than when it's up and running. Republicans would like you to believe that Democrats shut the government down, but the bill they wanted the Democrats to sign would knock out about 15 million Americans from health insurance. If this bill passes, your health insurance premiums could go up 75%, so there was no way the Democrats could vote for it. It's like like going to dinner and the waiter says, you must order lasagna, the chef made it today, and a bunch of you are going to get food poisoning from it, but if you don't eat it, you've ruined the meal. That's the Garfield version of what's going on right now.
Back in Brooklyn, Kimmel didn't just tag Vance with Vice President Maybelline and move on. He stacked tags. He clowned the administration's pancake-thick makeup habits, tossed in a perfect in 3.5 years I'm not the one doing mascara tutorials bit, and then jabbed Trump for declassifying Amelia Earhart files instead of releasing anything Epstein adjacent. That last one wasn't subtle. It told the room exactly what kind of distraction machine they were dealing with.
There is some silver lining to the shutdown. According to their official website, during the shutdown, our friends at the FCC will cease their response to consumer complaint and inquiry phone lines, which I'm not a lawyer, but I think means we can now say whatever we want on TV, right? To being a direct violation of the First Amendment is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing Carr Republicans have embraced since this.
Kimmel thrives on the contradictions. Trump rails against elites while living like one, dining on gold-plated steaks in properties that rent out his name like it's...
How long you worked here?
A year.
Okay. Donut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which donut, though?
Just whatever makes sense. No pickles. Hold the pickles.
Oh, well, no, I can get that for you.
The audience laughed because the premise was familiar. The punchline worked because the premise was true. And then, inevitably, came the eruption. Vance doubled down on the bad ratings myth in the same TV loop that set Kimmel up in the first place, while conservative media tried to staple the suspension to Disney churn numbers as if cancellations at a streaming bundle proved no one wanted a late-night show back on broadcast.
There's a tradition of meddling where they shouldn't under many administrations, but it wasn't always like this. There was an FCC commissioner back in 2022 who worked under Joe Biden who was spot on. He wrote, "President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship." You know who wrote that? FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. Are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.
The brilliance of Kimmel's roast lies in how he treats both.
Kimmel didn't fight the spin with adjectives. He fought it with nouns, stations, dates, audience, back on Tuesday, restored Friday, jokes on Monday. That's why the Brooklyn bit landed like a verdict. When you drag a rumor into the light next to a distribution list, it looks like what it is, a rumor. Look at the rhythm of the whole thing, and you can see why this felt like Kimmel destroyed him on live TV. Vance said the quiet part wrong on Laura Ingraham's set. Kimmel replayed it, answered with proof, and branded him with a nickname that will follow him like glitter in a carpet.
They call me creepy, cringy, awkward, that I give people something called the ick. They want you to think that I can't order a simple donut.
Was appointed chairman of the FCC by this former crusader for free speech.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down.
That was also in 2022, and I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
A lot of people, anybody could replace him. Guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent, and more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get rid.
It wasn't screaming, it was framing. The kind of framing that kills a narrative without raising your voice. That's the IBN sweet spot, and it's why Trump goes nuts or meltdown only need to show up when there's a real reaction. In this episode, the reaction was Vance insisting a ratings story existed while stations were literally adding Kimmel back to their lineup. The crowd didn't need a diagram. They heard the laugh, they saw the list, and they understood the
attorney. How do you assess the legal battles here?
Yeah, I bet all those judges are huge fans of Jimmy Kimmel, by the way, but I think, Vince, that one, we have an appeals process.
Not that. It's just me, Jimmy, the chairman of the FCC, gently suggesting that you gently shut the up.
But you can't say that. That's a violation of free speech.
Oh, yeah, about that. Speech, it ain't free no more.
What? It's not free no more?
Yeah, we're charging by the word now.
You're charging by the word? How much are you charging?
Depends on what you want to say. Like, you want to say something nice about the president's beautiful thick yellow hair, or how he can do his makeup better than any broad. That's free.
Here's the clean chain, stitched into one breath so nobody gets lost. ABC suspends Kimmel for 6 days. Trump gloats. Vance tells Fox its ratings. ABC restores the show nationwide, but Sinclair and Nexstar keep him off in key markets until viewer, advertiser, and political heat turn the screws. Sinclair relents. Nexstar follows. FCC Commissioner Carr says he never threatened anyone.
I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects. Some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it. And thanks. telling their followers that our government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions.
But spends a week explaining that easy way or hard way line to reporters and members of Congress who call it censorship by vibe. Kimmel opens in Brooklyn, reads Vance's quote, lists the reinstated stations, drops Vice President Maybelline, and pins the episode to reality with a grin. Ratings spike, settle above baseline, and the story Vance sold collapses under the weight of a schedule grid. That's not complicated, that's television.
I mean, seriously, if that guy walked into your office and told you he was there to start making cuts.
I have friends who met a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, who met the best man at their wedding at Turning Points USA because it was an organization of patriots dedicated to making this country the very best country that it could be.
So what's the bottom line? JD Vance brought a rumor to a receipts fight, and Jimmy Kimmel brought the receipts on live TV. The reason it hit is the same reason this stuff always hits. Facts are funnier when you let them punch by themselves. Kimmel didn't need to invent anything, he just needed to read Vance's own words, point at a map of stations that now carry his show, and let the crowd do the arithmetic. That's how you collapse spin without breaking a sweat.
You need to talk to the chairman of the FCC.
You don't need to know my name, and I am the new chairman of the FCC.
You were appointed FCC chairman by Donald Trump?
Sir Trump, yes. I used to do this work for the man here and there in Atlantic City.
But did I just hear you on the phone threatening Whoopi Goldberg?
No, I would never threaten Miss Goldstein. I was just teaching her a lesson about consequences.
No, well, pardon me for saying so, and maybe you're the wrong guy to talk to, but it seems like the FCC is using mob tactics to suppress free speech.
What the did you just say?
My mother.
We are definitely not driving back to our The brunt of the effect of the shutdown, it will be felt right here in New York. To punish you for disliking him, Trump is putting $18 billion worth of New York City infrastructure projects, like the new rail tunnels under the Hudson and the 2nd Avenue subway project, on hold to make sure the money isn't being used to support DEI. Apparently, they think trans stands for transportation over there, and they want to stop it. This is clearly an abuse of power to punish the city. And New York City infrastructure projects are not supposed to be delayed because Trump wants to strong-arm Democrats into cutting health care. They're supposed to be delayed because they're New York City infrastructure projects.
If you loved the Vice President Maybelline tag, drop your favorite line in the comments. If you were watching the reinstatement crawl like it was election returns, tell me which affiliate you waited on. And if you came here for a clean on-air takedown with receipts, hit subscribe. We'll keep rolling the tape every time the rumor runs into the ratings.